Saturday morning, Memorial Weekend, and of course he knows the cops are out. So he wasn't surprised to see an officer parked ahead under an overpass. However, the officer pulled out after him and pulled him over. And she said she clocked me doing 86 miles an hour. I told her I wasn't speeding. And he got a ticket. It was the first one he's ever got in his life. He said he wasn't sure why, but she was singling him out. So there was a $274 fine, and of course a point that goes along with that. His insurance rates might go up, so he decided to fight it. So he went to court via Zoom to fight it. That's when he learned that under oath, the officer's description of what happened was very different. She said, as I was traveling southbound, I observed a vehicle ahead of my location when I was traveling about 80 miles an hour. The vehicle was directly in front of my patrol vehicle in the number 2 lane. So the guy got pulled over starts waving because he wants to get the judge's attention because that's not what happened. She said the vehicle was about 100 feet ahead of my patrol vehicle and was pulling away as I was 80 miles an hour. I accelerated up to 85, and then the vehicle was at a steady, even pace of the patrol vehicle in a 70-mile-per-hour zone. At this time, I made a steady pace of the vehicle, grew up in front of the vehicle for about a quarter of a mile, and the man's continuing to wave like he wants to interject. And he said to the TV station, "That's a lie, a total lie. My blood pressure must have been through the roof." When she started saying that, I just couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So the 22-year-old veteran, in case you didn't figure this out, said she was driving, not parked. She also claimed that she paced him for a quarter of a mile. And so the judge asked the officer to provide evidence, like a dash camera. And she said, "I don't have a video today. It's unknown that the camera was working at that time." So the court listened to both sides and decided to find the man guilty because obviously the police officer was professional. She does this all day long. So the man got a ticket, tried again.
What?
He filed a complaint
Yeah, when you're done
with the
playing with
CHP, saying that she doesn't deserve to be wearing a uniform. And so it turns out that once in a while these things do work out. I wanted to take this case because this is the kind of officer that we need to go after aggressively, says the man from the county district attorney's office. A CHP investigation found that the man was right, and he wasn't the only driver impacted. Out of 100 tickets issued by this one officer in 2023, a CHP internal affairs investigation found inconsistencies in more than 50. Inconsistencies. So she said she was driving, she was parked. That's an inconsistency. So in the most egregious cases, they recommend the DA's office bring criminal charges. And so that's apparently what they did here. So it lands on the supervising deputy district attorney's desk. He's also a former police officer. He said it's a hard job, it's super underappreciated. When I see something like this, it makes my blood boil. So a grand jury indicted the officer on 3 felony counts of perjury. Then the DA's office filed a complaint alleging an additional 3 counts. The charges were related to issuing speeding tickets to 3 people, including the man that we talked about at the front who said that he drove by her when she was parked and she claimed she was driving. So the prosecutor says, so basically, she was writing traffic tickets for offenses that weren't committed and then writing notes and providing testimony on things that didn't happen. Investigation into the complaint we talked about with the guy at the top, the CHP did find dash camera video of the traffic stop. And it was like night and day, the prosecutor said. Just as the man had told the judge, the officer parked in a median and he drove by her. And then she merged onto the highway. She was driving behind the man for no more than 5 seconds before pulling him over. The bit about pacing him, trying to keep up with him, was all just embellishment or inconsistency. There's a huge difference between pacing somebody for a quarter mile and pulling behind him and immediately stopping him, the prosecutor says. So the officer's inconsistencies in this case also consequences for her others. And so the prosecutors, we had to dismiss a bunch of DUI cases because we no longer had a witness that could competently testify about the case, including at least one where there was a DUI with injuries. And so that is a crying shame. Despite the impact and the evidence, this case then came to a screeching halt. The defense filed a motion for mental health diversion on the basis of a PTSD diagnosis, said the prosecutor. California's mental health diversion program allows some people charged with crimes to avoid trial and opt for doing my job. So her attorney told the judge that she retired from the CHP in February of 2024, about 4 months after the complaint was filed against her by the man at the top of the story. The defense attorney said that she was also diagnosed with PTSD in 2024, although her psychiatrist said she was suffering from it even back during the times of the alleged crimes that are alleged here. So her post-traumatic stress disorder was untreated, her attorney said. In addition, they said that she did not purposely lie. She had no reason to do so. There was nothing to gain, her attorney said. And then he said, on 3 tickets, she made mistakes. Well, here's the problem. When you write a ticket, and you're going to go to court and have to support the ticket, you do want the ticket to get upheld. If it's not upheld, I presume it makes you look like you're not doing your job right. I mean, the idea that she's not gaining anything, maybe not financial gain, but there's all kinds of stuff you gain by writing a ticket and having it get upheld by court. So, in December, a Superior Court judge granted her request for mental health diversion, although she described it as a very difficult decision. She's accused of committing offenses while she's on duty. It does concern the court greatly because she did hold a position of authority in the public trust. Goes to the court or criminal justice system, that those who are entrusted to enforce the law do not abuse their power. The public have confidence in the system because fundamentally it is still about our rule of law. So apparently for 2 more years, she'll have to complete conditions of her diversion, which include going to therapy, medications if necessary, and completing 240 hours of community service, and writing apology letters to her alleged victims. And then if she completes the program, her perjury case will be dismissed. So a TV station asked that man, does it feel like justice? And he said, no, not at all. You believe you're innocent, fight for yourself. And so I'll tell you right now, the number of times I've heard people say, I got a ticket, went to court, and I lost. What can I do? And I explained, and I said, well, you can appeal, but the standard to win on appeal is quite high. And if someone said, well, what if I'll complain to the police department? My first thought is, okay, well, go right ahead. You're asking the police to investigate themselves. But interestingly here, they say that they found inconsistencies in more than 50 tickets out of 100 she wrote. Now, I can do the math on 50 out of 100, but both of those numbers are interesting because she wrote 100 tickets. Half of them were bad. Apparently, you consider an inconsistency in the ticket making it bad. So I suspect, and I'm reading between the lines here, I suspect that when this guy filed his complaint, somebody said, we need to look into that because there may have been rumblings around things are going on. There may have been other people standing at the court going, excuse me, that's not what happened, excuse me. And I've handled a lot of traffic tickets in my career, a lot of them. And I can tell you that I've had people tell me, and I believe them, that here's what happened, and the police officers know here's what happened. And they're diametrically opposed. They're binary propositions where it's impossible for the both be true. And I know for a fact, I had one case where I know for an absolute fact that the police officer was wrong. Whether he was lying or not, I don't know. He was completely wrong. But the judge looks at it and goes, well, police officer on one hand, your guy on the other hand, and the argument there was, in essence, what intersection something happened at. And the police officer who deals with traffic all day long is much more in tune with where different signs are, intersections are, and so on. And your guy who's going to maybe once a month, periodically, for 2 years, wouldn't know that area as well as the police officer would. Now, would you? Except the cop is wrong. And even though police officers don't gain anything by winning in court, I can assure you that they want to win. They don't like it when somebody says, I didn't do what that police officer accused me of doing. They're not going to go into court and go, oh, no, I still stand by my word. That's okay. I can be wrong. No! They treat it like anybody else. When you accuse somebody of lying, most people react with quite a bit of pushback. And when you go to court and say, I wasn't speeding, the cop says I was, in a roundabout way, you're saying, police officer's not telling the truth. Or it's an inconsistency. So it's a crazy story. The one thing I'm curious about, and I'm not a mental health professional, one of the things I'm not, is would PTSD actually lead you, as a police officer, to write tickets for people for things they didn't do, and then have you fabricate the circumstances of the ticket, and then go into court and lie if that's something PTS makes you do, then perhaps the police can start screening for it. But I'm curious about that. Because remember that if you go to court and are accused of a heinous crime, that's the capital offense, and you are insane in the legal sense, it literally means that you didn't know what you're doing and you didn't know right from wrong. Is PTSD something that actually causes you to not know what you're doing or what you're doing is right from wrong? I'm just asking the question because I don't know, and I'm not thinking of people with PTSD, obviously. In fact, I'm glad that we're more aware of it now. That, say, for instance, after World War I, when people came home from Europe with shell shock, and it's like, oh, poor guy's got shell shock, just leave him alone. Turns out there's no post-traumatic stress disorder. It's something we should be looking at, investigating, and treating. So if she's got it, absolutely get her treatment. But I am curious about the link between that and writing the tickets about things that didn't happen, and the notes about things that didn't happen, and going to court under oath and testify about things that didn't happen. That's my concern. So Josh, I agree with you. I don't get it either. I don't get it either. KCRA, we say Mitri wrote that. Prosecutors say the evidence against a CAP officer charged with lying under oath is overwhelming, but the case will not go to trial. Questions or comments put below this time.
Thank you for watching Legal's Law.
Talking away. I don't know what to say.
Oh.
Want to watch that one? Post 10 for this.
Whey protein is great, but 20 grams of this stuff might be more critical than you ever thought. Every time you work out, you're not just breaking your muscle fiber, you're also putting stress on your liver and your connective tissue. Your liver is what cleans up the metabolic exhaust that your workout leaves behind. The oxidative stress, the inflammation, and the byproducts that, quite frankly, can stall fat loss if they're not cleared, because then the liver has to deal with some of those compounds and not the metabolic benefit you're looking for. And the missing amino acid that ties it all together is glycine. And this stuff is found abundantly in collagen protein, which gets thrown under the bus all the time. It might actually be the quiet key that flips the entire recovery and, frankly, even the detox switch, which is right on, like, overhyped and over-sensationalized, but the liver really does detox. And the glycine peaks in your bloodstream about 30 to 60 minutes after you take it. And that includes
I got it. Yeah, I'm not talking about
so having that is I'm going to share how to leverage that time and tell them muscle recovery for potential liver detox and really even better sleep. So here's what I'm going to unpack today. First, we'll talk about how training ramps up your liver's detox window, especially if you're training hard.
Well, that you knocked out both
detox window of the day. Secondly, we're going to talk about how glycine from collagen combines with Whey's amino acids to build glutathione, which is your body's master antioxidant and really detoxifier if you want to get down to it. Third, we're going to talk about how this combination helps your liver calm the inflammation of it and therefore protects your mitochondria and restores some of the fat-burning flexibility, because it does really start in the liver. And finally, the practical part: when to use collagen, when to use whey, and when to even use pure glycine for maximum recovery, for detoxification, and for another thing that gets overlooked, connective tissue synthesis. We have to remember that training does not just stress muscles. It stresses the whole body, the nervous system, the liver, you name it. We usually think of post-workout recovery in terms of muscle and just our protein synthesis, but recovery isn't just about rebuilding muscle. It's about what your liver is doing behind the scenes too, which is metabolizing a lot of the metabolic waste from your workout. After an intense workout, the bloodstream fills with what's called reactive oxygen species. It also fills with what are called lipid peroxides. These are things that sort of cause oxidative stress. And they also increase in just metabolites that your liver has to neutralize first. This is called phase 2 detoxification, and it's where your liver attaches amino acids to toxins and metabolites so that you can excrete them. That's literally part of the body. One of the main amino acids that your liver relies on for that is glycine. And there's a study, I talked about it in another video before, it's in Xenobiotica, showed that human liver tissue is particularly effective at using glycine for this process. It's a step that's called glycine conjugation. So if you think of glycine as like this molecular escort, it binds to these toxic byproducts, it neutralizes them, and then it escorts them out of the body. But the problem is that most diets today, at least most like people that aren't really clicked into maybe the stuff that you're watching right now, they're eating a bunch of these methionine heavy proteins like chicken breast and whey and things like that, but they're not getting the glycine rich collagen or gelatin, right? That's why I'm a big fan of ground muscles, but they're really kind of starving detox machinery if you really want to get down to it. That's why combining collagen and whey post-workout can actually be a game changer, at least in my opinion. It supports both sides of recovery. But then we have to look at how glycine and whey together complete what's called the glutathione cycle. Because things get kind of interesting when you look at how the body assembles things. Your body's main detox and antioxidant system is glutathione. Okay, and it's built from three amino acids. You have cysteine, you have glycine, and you have glutamate. Whey protein is providing the cysteine and the glutamate, whereas collagen protein is providing the glycine, which is the rate limiting piece that's often missing. There was a study, again, I talked about this in another video too, in the Oster Journal that showed that most people fall below the minimum glycine threshold to even have proper glutathione synthesis in the first place. And when that happens, your body starts producing less glutathione, and you have more oxidative stress that builds up and hinders your recovery. So when glycine levels are restored, then everything comes back to normal. If we look at a study that was published a few years ago, it found that supplementing glycine with cysteine increased intracellular glutathione, ended up boosting insulin sensitivity and improving mitochondrial fat oxidation. So whey protein plus collagen, you complete the antioxidant circuit. You're left with, well, what you need to actually make glutathione, help the liver out, and possibly even burn more fat. The bottom line is that you're not just building muscle, you're building resilience. But then there's also this whole piece of muscle protein synthesis and building muscle compared to connective tissue, right? There is a dual anabolic window if you really want to look at it like that. Let's break this down to a performance angle. Whey protein excels at triggering muscle protein synthesis. Okay, that's because of leucine. Leucine activates mTOR, and that's your grow and repair signal for muscle tissue. But when you work out, you got to think about someone else. What about your connective tissue? What about your tendons? What about your ligaments? What about even your fascia? And that's where collagen shines, right? That's where it's known. It's loaded with glycine. It's got proline. It's got hydroxyproline. These are the amino acids that your connective tissue is literally built from. So when you combine collagen and whey after training, you're rebuilding both systems at once. You're rebuilding the muscle tissue that moves you and the connective tissue.
That's me.
That connects everything else together. And because glycine also fuels this whole glutathione detoxification system, you're syncing tissue repair with detox repair in the same recovery window. It's like the recovery that gets you stronger, but it also keeps you durable. It doesn't need to be a super fancy, like over the top thing either. Like I use a collagen from a company called Bubs, which is the most basic, simple, unadulterated collagen, which is why I like it. It doesn't have flavors added to it. It doesn't have fillers. It just mixes almost instantly in water. It's some of the highest quality bovine collagen that you could possibly find. It's grass fed. It's really good stuff. And I put that link down below. That is for a special discount. That's for 20% off Bubs Collagen. I feel these guys are doing it right. They're awesome. Sean, the owner, is a super solid dude that really puts his money where his mouth is. And the whole company is just built on a good cause. They take 10% of their profits, put to charity. They do that in the name of Glenn Jones, which is a Navy SEAL that gave up his life as a qualified as a cub, which is why they created Bubs Collagen. So the whole underlying message and what they're after is good, which I don't know. If you believe in that stuff, I think the intent behind a company makes a big difference. So maybe that's why it works so well, because they're actually putting good energy into that stuff. But bottom line is, it's clean, it's simple, it doesn't have a bunch of additives. It's just what you need for basic collagen. I get 15 to 20 grams post-workout along with my protein. So that link in the top line of the description if you want to check it out. But we need to talk about a couple more things. There is an inflammation switch that is inside your liver has sort of its own built-in immune system. It's tied in obviously with our regular immune system, but it almost has its own system. And glycine directly talks to it. Inside your liver are these very specialized immune cells. They're called Kupffer cells, and when they sense stress, like intense training or even just environmental stress, they release inflammatory cytokines. So they trigger an inflammatory response. And there was a study that was published in the American Journal of Physiology that found that these Kupffer cells have these glycine-gated channels, these chloride channels. So they respond specifically to glycine. When the glycine ends up binding to this, it opens the channel and it allows chloride to flow in and it blocks this inflammatory cascade from happening. This is like more complex metabolic stuff and mechanistic, but essentially when they sense glycine, it stops the inflammation in the liver. There was actually another study where they took animals and exposed them to like a high stress, and they found that when they pre-treated these animals with a high dose of glycine, they ended up with less liver damage from the toxins that they exposed them to. I find this particularly fascinating. You basically find that glycine doesn't just assist detox, it actually shields the liver from the inflammation while it detoxifies. And again, like the stress we put our bodies under with big workouts, that is stressful on the liver. That's why your literal liver enzymes will be elevated if you had a really hard workout and get blood work done. Now, you couple that with the mitochondria, your metabolic engines, you've got a perfect storm for just revamping your metabolism from the liver outward. So there was a science translational medicine study that found that glycine-based peptides actually reduced fatty liver, increased the genes for fat oxidation, and improved mitochondrial efficiency. So what that translates to is better fat loss and less metabolic waste and less oxidative stress, which is exactly what you want after a tough workout, right? You're looking for literally that. You want to get stronger, you want to burn fat, you want to build muscle, and you want to bounce back faster and clean. Like none of us are working out to get unhealthy. We're trying to work out to get healthy. But let's talk about how to apply this, like timing and dosages. So if you're looking post-workout, sort of the recovery and kind of the detox stack, I would say 3 grams of whey protein isolate or concentrate. Remember that concentrate is going to have a little bit more of the milk solids in it. So if you're a little bit more sensitive to dairy, you might have a tougher time there, but it also has lactoferrin, which is really good for the gut. So you play by your what works for you. 30 to 40 grams. That's going to be your muscle protein synthesis and also your cysteine precursors. Okay, really important there. Then 10 to 20 grams, minimum 10 in this case, collagen peptides. This is getting you the glycine and the proline that you need for obviously everything we talked about and the connective tissue. If you wanted to bump it up, you could go 2 to 3 grams of pure glycine added to it. This is going to give you the added liver and glutathione support. You may want to do this if it was a particularly hard, like upper aerobic workout, like CrossFit style workout where you're stressing the body metabolically. If you take this combo within 30 minutes post workout, you sort of align with glycine's absorption peak within that kind of detoxification. If you're doing more like heavy
Oh, I can do that.
you have more connective tissue.
Watch this.
You actually might want to
Guy jumps up.
10 or 15 grams of collagen 30 or 45 minutes pre-workout because you can actually preload connective tissue. And we've seen this in a couple of studies. Looking at like the Achilles tendons, where you actually like it preloads so you have less stress on the connective tissue. And we want to add like 100 all the way up to probably 500 milligrams of vitamin C before a workout, along with that collagen. You can assist what's called collagen cross-linking, where the collagen actually forms the matrix that we need to strengthen our connective tissue. If you're looking more specific for like liver regeneration, there's some stuff you can do at night. So like 3 to 5 grams of pure glycine 30 to 60 minutes before bed. This ends up helping out with the liver's overnight detox phase, which is a big piece of it. A lot of this happens at night. The cool thing is you're also helping your deep sleep because it helps activate the parasympathetic system. So you're helping connective tissue recovery by getting good sleep. Now, kind of a cool tip, and I've talked about this in another video too, is if you take glycine with high sulfur foods, so eggs, garlic, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, things like that. This provides the cysteine and the glycine together. So from a food perspective, so you're supercharging that glutathione production. If you don't even want to take glycine, you could also literally eat ground beef with the gristle along with sulfur-containing eggs and ground beef. Money, like perfect combination. So if we bring it all together, if we tie it all back with it, we started with detox, talked about how your liver clears toxins through this glycine conjugation, and then we talked about how glycine powers glutathione, which is that antioxidant body. Then we looked at how it kind of mellows up the liver inflammation through those immune cells and protects the mitochondria. And then finally, how combining collagen and whey after a workout kind of helps the muscle and the connective tissue synthesis. So this is like giving your liver what it needs to clean everything up, but also giving your muscle and your connective tissue what it needs. So when glycine is abundant, your liver detoxes smoothly because it has that compound it needs. The inflammation can be a little bit less. The mitochondria burn cleaner. The metabolism feels alive. When it's deficient, you can make an argument that everything kind of clogs up, right? It is a rate-limiting step, a rate-limiting compound. So getting it from your ground beef, from your collagen, from pure glycine supplement, all of that is fine and dandy. Now, I did another video that talks about how much protein you can absorb in one sitting. This is really important because if you can time it right, you can actually get a lot of protein in one sitting in the shows it. So this video breaks down a study that talks about how we can consume up to 100, possibly even more grams of protein in one sitting, and it legit gets absorbed. So check that video out here, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow. We're on our site. I don't know how long. This what we're talking about today. Intervals. Yeah. It's pretty common to a project that I figured, you know what? I don't think I've ever done a video on them. Let's talk through it. We can pull up the code excerpt and we talk a little bit about how we anchor the house to the foundation system. So here you can see in New England, we do a double sill, right? They have what some guys would call the green sill and white sill, meaning one's treated, the one that touches the concrete. If you haven't seen it, I did that air seal detail video. Go check that out. We'll do a sill seal under there. But when it comes to anchor bolts, a couple things. One, you specify the size. In this case here, these are 1/2 inch bolts. Now, I never specified the length of the anchor bolt. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Some guys will bolt it on top here, and then they'll just do it with the stuff that needs wrapping around it and notching it or doing whatever they have to do. Some guys will cut this out with a larger bolt and just bolt the bottom one and nail the upper one, right? So they don't get both of them bolted down. So there's different situations per framery. This one here, they chose to do it on top. So rather than provide the length of the bolt, what I specified is the embedment of the bolt, which means how far does this bolt go down from the top of concrete? So typically on a standard house, and I say standard house, meaning one that's out of a high wind zone, one that's not, near the ocean, where the game changes, right? So these, we're far enough away. This is just a standard attachment. So 1/2 inch bolt, 7-inch embedment, no special heat on the washer. So if you're by a high wind zone, maybe the bolt jumps to a 5/8 inch. Maybe the embedment jumps to 8 or 10 inches. And one thing that will surely happen is you'll go to a 3-inch square washer. And I might be able to pull up a photo from an old project. I know we've done it on some other projects. So we can pull that up to show you exactly what that looks like. So, but that's how we deal with the size of the bolts and the length of the bolts. And these are what we would call J bolts. So they have a little hook down at the bottom, almost like a fish hook. They're L shaped. And that's just to provide that extra pull out, right? So you're not pulling out a tube. You actually have to rip the concrete apart to pull those out. So it's fighting in there. Now, where does the replacement go laterally on the wall? Code very specifically stipulates this. Typically 48 inches on center. So you can see here, and that's the minimum. It doesn't have to be that. You can do 40 inches, do 42, you do 24 if you want. But you can't do 49. So 48 inches on center, typically. The code also stipulates that within a joint, you have to be 12 inches, and within the corner, you have to be within 12 inches of a corner. So notice, we're within 12 inches of the corner, we're within 12 inches of the end. Now, the other thing that the code stipulates is that in any length of mud cells, there's a minimum of 2 bolts. So even though this is a short piece, we can't get away with just putting 1 bolt in the middle, even though it meets that 12-inch rule. There's a minimum 2 bolt rule in the code itself. As we go down the wall here, you can see, like I said, it's not bad, but a lot of people don't necessarily pay attention to it. And as we come down, we have those 4 foot on center. And then as we get to this other far corner, you can see again laid out within 12 inches of the corner. So anyway, but then back to the studio. This pull up some documentation, we'll pull up some drawings, some good stuff, and we'll continue the conversation on anchor bolts. So I'll see you back in the studio. Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. Yes, you got quick here. What can I say? Anchor bolts. They are a necessity, although the times are yeah, I mean, again, one of those things that are required, and we put them in. So, yeah, I got that live board fired up, and of course, virtual live is coming up. So, I mean, by the time this gets there, it's probably a week away, or it is that weekend. So, anyways, hopefully I'm going to see you out there. Let's talk anchor bolts. So, like this up. So, a couple things here. There's the size. And the size is twofold. There is the length of it. There is the diameter. And there is what I would call the embedment. And that's usually considered two things. And washer size. Quite beautiful. We'll talk a little bit about that, even though it wasn't necessarily an issue there. But those are kind of the critical components, I guess, of an anchor bolt when you're looking at it. So here you can see it's a pretty simple one. I mean, it's a standard, what we would call a J bolt, right? Because it's shaped like a J. Has that little hook, so you can't pull it out. Right? Hooks into the concrete, what you call it, curves around it. The bolt becomes embedded. What is up here? Embedded, right? So, talk a little bit about it. Size and length. Well, before we talk about that, let's talk about embedment. I talked to our structural engineer. Our standard here is it has to be equal to or greater than 7 inches. Right? That is our minimum. We want to get around 7 inches. So if we're going to go through one mud sill, obviously it's 7.5. We're ready with about an 8-inch bolt. If we want to go through post, then we're up in 10-inch, 12-inch category. Diameter, a pretty easy one. Usually these are 5/8 of an inch, 7 inches. Embedment, size and length, again, depending on whether we go through two. I show it going through one, and we put typically in the England, we do a double mud sill. So we have the treated mud sill down at the bottom here, and then we have what I call the top sill. Now, that's a lot of it has to do because we're using an R sheathing. And the R sheathing requires that you can get some shear nails in there. So the bottom sill goes all the way out flush to the face. The top sill sits in, sheathing comes down, seats against there, and then we can shear nail into that. And then depending on your choice as the builder, we can do the bolts on top, or sometimes we go through and then we'll either screw the plates together or nail them together. A lot of it has to do with where the house is located, wind load, certain all of the shear loads, right, that come with earthquakes and winds and stuff like that. Basically, wanting to rip, this off the foundation. Basically, pull that house literally right off of there. So, pretty straightforward. As far as the side diameter, embedment, also washer size. So when we get closer to the coast, we have that J bolt. I'm just going to draw it here. That goes up. Okay. So you see a little washer there. So the J bolt 5/8 of an inch, maybe it's like an inch and a half washer or something like that. But when we're in high wind zones, then the structural engineer will require us to use a 3-inch square washer to hold it down. The reason
really are trying to engage this surface area with the plate, right? So that when the shear rolls up and they want to rip this thing off, well, if I have a small washer, then I can potentially rip it off. Ripping a small area, I do 3 inches, right? So 3-inch square washer is 9 square inches.
You okay so far?
Math? So surface area on the washer, which means I get better hold power. So that's where washer size plays a role. A lot of our coastal homes and such, pretty much it's a 5/8-inch hole. We usually even go a little deeper than 7 inches. We get into like 8 inches, 10 inches, 3-inch washers. So we get a little bit more out of the deal there. So I threw this one up. So this was this picture, right? A couple rules. And here you can see it shows the 1.5-inch washer on top of it. This one's treated. This one here is just raw 2x6. Notice we have our sill sealer here. We're going to shoot a video that talks about that. But intervals. A couple things have to happen. You can see there's just a little remnant. There is one over here. There is one here. There's one here. And of course, one there. Now, with intervals, the rule is, unless told otherwise by code, that they have to be 4 foot on center, right? Minimum. So you can see these are a little closer. Now, the reason these are closer is that you have to have one within 12 inches of the corner, and that's in each direction. Right? So that means from here to there has to be less than 12 inches, and from here back to this one has to be less than 12 inches, right? So those need to be 12 inches. You also need 2 per sill. So even if this sill was cut back here because of the garage, we would need one within 12 inches, and we would need a second one there. So you need 2 per sill. So every 4 feet, we have 30-foot foundation wall. Every 4 feet, within 12 inches of all corners, and of course the 2 per sill. So where the 2 per sill really plays a role is, here where we have like the garage door or the replacement door on the garage. The front garage doors are those walls that, it can be 30 inches, 24 inches long, but the requirement is to have 2 intervals at a minimum. Sometimes we do hold down and with other kind of more aggressive solutions when the shear loads get a little higher or where our location is. But kind of a standard house, we can get away with, pretty much this stuff here. And so, well done, this will nail it all together. And we get a nice solid system there. So. You know it. Build show. Yeah. What can I say? 14 contributors, literally thousands of videos. I know we're over 3,000 videos now. I want to say subscription, our watch rate, and viewing rate is it's increased phenomenally. So thank you to all of you joining in and watching this video and watching all of my colleagues' videos. And I try and catch up with a bunch of their videos every now and then. Have some time. Go to watch and see what they're doing. And I'll do a great job. And social live November 7th through the 9th. If you're looking for more, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, subscribe button. And hopefully I see you in Austin. Might be over by the time we do this video. Not quite sure. Thank you for sharing it with me. And I'll be here next week sharing with you. So, until next time, you know it. I'll move our building.
Selective Services are going to be calling all right now men 17 or older to sign up. Selective Service Draft Board. The government's going to have the draft board have anyone 17 or older sign up. Yes. Trump has already said he's running for a third term.
Situation in the Middle East has gone from bad to worse following Donald Trump's invasion of Iran. We just learned that a fourth U.S. service member has been pronounced dead. The amount of seriously wounded U.S. service members has climbed to 18. Also, in response to all of the very serious and deeply troubling news,
I feel like I've just come out of a fog.
Donald Trump has
I
issued
imagine I felt like someone on a trip.
He said this to the New York Post moments ago, quote, I don't have the gifts with respect to the
You'll
boots
take
on
a
the
nice
ground.
walk in the
Like every
neighborhood.
president says, there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. I say probably don't need it before if they were necessary. Because
What are we doing about supper?
Oh my God.
I don't have the gifts. Stated Donald Trump.
My God.
War is spreading throughout the entire Middle East. Iran is not relenting. There was a disastrous press conference held this morning by Donald Trump's Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs Dan King. They talked about a war that could last a very long period of time, weeks, potentially months. Also, Donald Trump's been calling into reporters and saying that he is not ruling out boots on the ground. The specific quote from Donald Trump is, we are going to be escalating this even more soon. It's going to get even less safe. We haven't even hit them, referring to Iran, hard yet, Donald Trump says. He's also been making a number of other kind of deranged quotes about how he's not ruling out. He said other presidents, they're afraid of putting boots on the ground. I'm not afraid of putting boots on the ground. I'm going to do whatever it is that I'm going to do. We also learned that there were 3 F-15s that were struck by Kuwait in a friendly fire incident. U.S. Air Force fighter jets were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. Fortunately, all of the individuals on board those airplanes were safe and they did not die. They all were able to eject, but a major friendly fire incident over there in Kuwait. I want to go through what else is going on. Let's just take this piece by piece of what we are learning this morning. CENTCOM posted the following update. As of 7:30 a.m. March 2nd, 4 U.S. service members have been killed in action. The 4th service member who was seriously wounded during Iran's initial attack eventually succumbed to their injuries. 18 American service members seriously wounded so far during this operation. The U.S. military's ongoing strike campaign against Iran, according to a spokesperson for U.S. Central Command.
This is Midas
Iranian
Touch.
forces also hit a U.S. flagged tanker, the Stena Imperative, in the port of Bahrain today, setting the vessel on fire. And while all of this was going on, Donald Trump says it's going to get less safe. We haven't started to hit them hard yet.
They're not
Big
saying,
wave has
they're just making a general
big one
statement
is
that
coming soon.
every
And Donald Trump
every
called
male
out CNN and told
17 or older,
the following as well.
usually it was 17 to 26 years old back when I was getting my draft card. But I don't know. I don't know.
10 years. 10 years when I did it.
No, it's not going to take 10 years.
We can see the satellite imagery right here, dated Sunday, March 1st, obtained by Planet Labs and Airbus Defense and Space. That's the fine folks at INT Defender who have done a good job at least compiling all this stuff. And analyzed by the New York Times, you can see extensive damage that's been done to the U.S. Naval Support Activity Base in Bahrain, the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet right there. Look at the before, look at the after right here. Also, according to ABC, all U.S. military bases are now under threat condition Bravo, which is basically one of the highest level threats of terroristic activity there. Ali Laranjani, who is one of the top military officials in Iran, runs their national security, their version of their National Security Council, has put out the following statement this morning. Iran, unlike the United States, has prepared itself for a long war. Here's the statement that was put out by the Islamic regime. As in the past 300 years, Iran did not start this war, and our brave armed forces have not engaged in any attacks except in defense. We will fiercely defend ourselves and our 6,000-year-old civilization, regardless of the cost, and will make the enemies sorry for their miscalculations. He then posted, Trump has betrayed America first to adopt Israel first, and then posted, Trump's wishful thinking has dragged the whole region into an unnecessary war, and now he is rightly worried about more American casualties. It is indeed very sad that he is sacrificing American treasure and blood to advance Netanyahu's illegitimate expansionist ambitions. He also posts, we will not negotiate with the United States. So, folks, it doesn't seem like Iran is going to be relenting or going to be surrendering or going to be even negotiating with Donald Trump at this point. At the same time, we know that the Kremlin, Donald Trump's buddy, Vladimir Putin, says that Russia is in continuous contact with Iran's leadership over what Moscow calls outright aggression against Tehran, and has expressed deep disappointment in how events unfolded. So as Donald Trump continues to be a Putin bootlicker, you have Putin and China also siding here with Iran, as we knew they would. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, held a unhinged press conference this morning, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, and he just started doing Clint Eastwood quotes. It was very bizarre, this press conference. Let me show you what went down. When he was asked, so is this war going to take 4 weeks, 6 weeks? How long is it going to take, Pete Hegseth? He then attacks NBC and says that's a typical NBC gotcha question. If it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, it can move up. Just stop asking these questions. Here, play this clip. Ability that we have over there.
I heard the question about 4 weeks. It's a typical NBC sort of gotcha type question. President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve. And what he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do. Well, Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing. Is to look for opportunities and off-ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games of 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does, because there's no better communicator than our president expressing those things. I've been in meetings with the president for the last 2.5 days. We know exactly where his headspace is, and he will communicate as he should exactly what he would like, and we will follow those orders. And I think everything he said on that is right down the middle. Absolutely. Yes, right there. Yes, sir.
And Hegseth starts to do these bizarre one-liners where he's like, this is not so-called regime change, but this is changing the regime. Here, play this clip.
Iran was building powerful missiles and drones to create a conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Let me say that again. A conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Our bases, our people, our allies, all in their crosshairs. Iran had a conventional gun to our head as they tried to lie their way to a nuclear bomb. It almost worked under Obama, and
and his terrible deal, but not under this president. Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it.
You know what's easier than fixing a problem? Not having the problem in the first place. Your liver is one of those organs that you don't think about until you have to. Supporting Gail is one of those small things that maybe make a huge difference in how you feel overall. And that's where dose comes in.
White Castle.
Dose for your liver is a clinically bad.
Where did you get White Castle?
This isn't just another capsule or powder. Dose is a liquid supplement.
No, we're having meatloaf.
Your first month's subscription as we run on the Mighty Special. It would be nice if we had a Secretary of Defense who knew what he was doing and not just regurgitating quotes from action movies, more from exit right here, where he's asked by reporters, what do you mean by you want our troops to pray, or what do you want them to pray for? What's in your prayer for them? What are you talking about right now? Rather than giving us a strategy, you want prayer. That's what you're saying that we should do. We shouldn't ask questions as the American people. It's just prayer. He's like, yeah, it should just be the biblical prayer. That's what my family does, the biblical prayer. You know, all of these warmongers, all of these fascists, they hide behind the Bible. They hide behind God, but they don't want to answer actual questions. It's utterly despicable. Play this clip. This is military practice.
Last one right here.
Thank you, sir. As you said, there are a large amount of U.S. service members that are in harm's way right now. What is your prayer for them?
First of all, my prayer for them is that I do pray for them. My wife prays for them. Our family prays for them. Our cabinet prays for them. None of this is done on a whim. Having been in their boots, having been in their shoes, having been in their flight suits, I think I know we think about them with every decision that we make and every recommendation that we make to the President of the United States. Those recommendations are made prayerfully. And when I pray every day for them and for this mission, I pray simply for the biblical wisdom to see what is right and the courage to do it. It's going to take courage to follow through on this. There's going to be a lot of noise, and we pray for that, and we hope all of you do as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, spoke, and he said, we should expect a lot more losses of life. This mission is going to take a very long time. This is a major operation. Major combat operations take a long time. We're in a war. Here, play this clip.
The military objectives that CENTCOM and the Joint Force have been tasked with will take some time to achieve, and in some cases will be difficult and gritty work. We expect to take additional losses, and as always, we will work to minimize U.S. losses. But as the Secretary said, this is major combat operations.
So then a reporter asks Hegseth, are you concerned about this war spiraling into a longer war? Play this clip.
Secretary Hegseth, and one for Chairman Kane as well. I understand to your point here that you don't want to broadcast everything for our adversaries to hear, but the American people also want to know what they're sending their men and women to war for. Is there a concern of this spiraling into a longer war? And then one for the Chairman.
Did you not hear my remarks? We're ensuring the mission gets accomplished, but we're very clear-eyed, as the president has been, unlike other presidents, about the foolish policies of the past that recklessly pulled us in, the things that were not tethered to actual clear objectives. So we know we have plans, we have generals, we have chairmen, we have commanders, CENTCOM commanders, Admiral Cooper, who's executing very deliberately to ensure outcomes that I laid out are accomplished. But we would never, in front of a press pool, lay out how long that may take. The mission for our warfighters, which is what matters to us, is very, very clear. And they're executing it right now violently.
And then he says that rules of engagement are stupid. He says rules of engagement are stupid. Let's play this clip.
With maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives. As the president warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America.
Donald Trump just issued the following statement to New York Post. Donald Trump says, quote, "I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground. Like every president says, there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. I probably don't need them, or if they were necessary. I don't have the yips, not the yips," Donald Trump says. That's his current message to the American people. He doesn't have the yips. Then Donald Trump said that he really
Donald Trump just stated he doesn't have the yips.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, he says that's right out of the central casting of a Hollywood movie, and he said that that's what he likes. That's out of central casting. It's a direct quote from Donald Trump. Here, play this clip.
The military operation, he said there is no greater military in the U.S., and he was praising General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, for the news conference that we just watched. Cut and dry, as he said, central casting, and they have a job to do, and they're getting it done.
More Donald Trump communicating here with state regime media known as Fox. Donald Trump is saying that we need to follow what we did in Venezuela and do that in Iran. Just use the template, find somebody in the Islamic Republic who wants to take over, and then become their ally. So that's the plan right now. Okay, here, play this clip.
He said there is a plan. He points to Venezuela as a template, which means to me that going in, they had some sense on the ground of what was coming next.
Then they're bringing on all their sycophants in the MAGA movement, like Markwayne Mullin, MAGA Republican senator from Oklahoma. And here he says, it's up to the Iraqi people. The Iraqi people will make their decision. You mean the Iranian people. Okay, it's up to the Iraqi people. They literally conflate Iraq and Iran because this is what they're doing here. Play this clip.
But it's up to the Iraqi people, or I'm sorry, the Iranian people to choose their next leader. It's up to them to rise up and kick this regime out of place. If they do not, then they will be with a different leader but the same regime. If they choose to get a different leader that we can have a relationship with, which we would love to. Prior to 1979, we had a good relationship with Iran. But if they choose to pick up a leader, sure, we will surround that leader, not necessarily with boots on the ground, but with assets to make sure that that leader can be protected, rise up, and then the Iranian people will have the opportunity to choose their next leadership.
Now, so in contrast, here's what Democratic Congress member and Army Ranger Jason Crow had to say. Play this clip.
Right, and how this goes is elites and leaders in Washington talk tough and bang the war drums, and then what happens is working class kids like me and the people that I fought with in Iraq and Afghanistan actually have to get into planes and helicopters and pick up rifles and do it. Right, so I've had it with that cycle, that endless cycle of non-accountability. I mean, look, tonight Donald Trump filmed this tough video where he talked about war and the cost of war and how hard it's going to be and how we're going to lose troops. And he literally went behind the curtain and hosted $1 million a plate dinner dance party at Mar-a-Lago. That tells you everything you need to know.
Another international news, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has barred the U.S. from using bases there to strike Iran. French President Emmanuel Macron announced a direct boost in France's nuclear arsenal moments ago, announcing the country will stop revealing the size of its stockpile, but will be greatly increasing its stockpile of nuclear weapons. As Aaron Bonko explained, what a remarkable turn in messaging. We went from hearing from Trump and senior officials and lawmakers in recent days that they want freedom for the Iranian people, signaling a push for regime change, to hearing from the Pentagon that this campaign is actually not about that at all. And as Greg Kalstrom says, Trump is basically calling up every journalist in his phone to workshop different timelines and goals for his war. In the past 2 days, Washington Post, the aim is freedom for the people of Iran. Axios, maybe we can end it in 2 or 3 days. New York Times, might be 4 to 5 weeks. I have 3 very good choices who might take control. ABC, actually, never mind. We killed those choices. He doesn't sound convinced by any of it. He's throwing spaghetti at the wall. Ultimately, I suspect he just wants to say he solved the problem that has vexed every American we're seeing just this massive, massive retaliation by Iran. I mean, massive strikes. Don't get me wrong, by the United States and Israel in Iran, but Iran is striking its neighbors and inflicting a lot of pain as well. And the entire region's becoming engulfed. Russia's being drawn. China's potentially being drawn in, and the entire world right now, in some way or another, is involved in this war. That's what we got for now. We'll keep you posted throughout the day. Get subscribed. Let's get to 7 million subscribers, and thanks for watching. If you want to stay plugged in, become a subscriber to our Substack. Right?
Real Plumber reacts to this all out. What they get right and wrong. Now, millions of people trust this show for their home improvement advice, and for good reason. They do great work. But sometimes, what works in a controlled TV environment is very different from what happens in your house. Today, we're separating the TV magic from the real world reality. For the homeowner and DIYer, this video will help you understand the crucial details that often get left on the cutting room floor. For my fellow plumbers, we're going to have a professional discussion about the techniques shown and why they might not always be the same choice on a real service call. So, let's roll the clip and see what happens.
Good to see you, Richard. All right, perfect. Good. I got a chance to peek around down here, and you are in luck. You've got a washer and dryer down here, so it means we've got hot and cold water, which is great. We've got a washing machine standpipe right here. Now this standpipe comes down here and goes down into our drain. Now at this point, the water goes down into the drain. At this point and above, though, this pipe is a vent, and that's a really good thing. We often don't see this in basement applications. What's a vent do? Well, without that vent, this drain would gurgle. So what happens is it breaks the vacuum, so that water will go down the drain. So it's a really good thing that's there. One thing I did notice, this drain is about 26 inches off the ground. Now I look over here, this section. This is what? About 18 inches. Okay? Now, if I just cut sitting like this, just a little bit lower, about 18. Now technically, from this point to this point is no longer a vent because there's a drain coming in above it. So what I've got to do is modify all this piping lower. Now we're going to cut the pipe. There you grab that. Now in order to get our wide fittings to be able to accept the drain from both sides, the washer and the utility side, I need to add these 45-degree angle fittings to turn it to horizontal. Now, the mark you made right here references the center of the drain coming from our utility side. I've added that line to this pipe right here. I put a setting. Okay, now, first of all, I want to jump here. Look, this is a great installation video. And what I like about it, what I mean by that is, very seldom when we walk in and the pipes are right there, exposed, wide open. Okay, so let's start with what they get right, because they get a lot right. Here's the expert explaining the importance of the proper vent. Now, this is 100% correct and perfectly explained. Now, Richard, I've met him before. He is a true professional. And this is fantastic advice for any homeowner to understand. This is the kind of quality information that makes these shows valuable. But here's the first place where TV divulges from reality. Notice how they're working in a wall that is wide open. There's no insulation to do with, no dark spots. You can see everything. There's no other pipes to deal with. I mean, not that are in your way. And the lighting, well, when you've got a position like this, it's perfect. Now, in the real world, you're doing this job cramped in a dark, dirty crawl space with 3 other pipes in your way, right between you and them, and they only happen to be right in front of your eyes. The technique they're showing is correct, but this is a perfect world test. The service plumber needs a different set of skills to do that same job in a real lived-in house. Because you're not just going to be able to open up the wall, cut everything in perfect, change this out, change this out. It takes a lot of work. You have to allow for the pipe to fit inside that thing. And that mark will be right here. The PVC saw is made just for this. Steady, pull back and forth. Try to keep it as level as you can. So, sit down
saw do the work. If the saw just does the work, you just press it up. Alright, I'm going to get rid of this key wire. I'm going to connect onto this vent using a coupler. So you can cut any way you want. So now with that knife just deburring inside the pipe, you want to get rid of all the shavings from the cutting. Good. Now, here's our double wide thing. Now I'm going to dry fit everything. Now I've got a pipe right here that's in the way. So in order to get around that, I can actually spin this 45, and I can add another one right over here, and that'll allow me to bring my wash machine drain in right here. And on this side, I can put a 90-degree bend, and that's my drain to the utility side. Now I'm going to measure this piece right here. Alright, so here's our piece that's going to go from our double wide. If you're a plumber, make up this last connection. I think you already see what's coming here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at this double wide. This is going to come up over, and it's going to go over and P-trap for this washing machine. Isn't that going to create stoppage? Take a special coupling called a slip coupling, also called a repair coupling. So this can come right down, bring this together, and then bring it right back up again. Now, the purpose of dry fitting is to be sure that it all fits together at the angles are correct. So just make a series of ripples marks. These lines are going to help us recreate the perfect and glue it all together. All right, first we need to clean. You take the purple can right there, clean it with vertical, sticking up. Okay, now, so many plumbers just now we're ready to glue it because that purple runs right there. I know I do. Guys, look, just when you're working, especially on an exposed pot like this, shake all the primer off of your dauber. You want to get primer on the pot, but you don't want it running down like that. That, to me, looks very unprofessional. Apply to the outside of the pipe and the inside of the fiddle. Push it down. Push it down all the way. Hold it for a 4 count. Yeah, that should do it. Good. Alright, well our wasted vent is pretty much done. Here's our wash machine standpipe, coming right down into the double wide and down the drain. Here's our drain from the utility sink going to the same double wide, and we're connected back to the vent. Plumbers, correct me, but if this is a P-trap, comes up, goes over, and then drops back down, below the top of this, I believe we created this trap. But before we put that utility sink into place, I really want to think about doing the supply of water too. Okay, so right above you is a hot and cold supply line. The shut-off valve for the hot and I'm going to turn on. It looks like there's a ball that right above your head, so turn that 90 degrees. Alright, good. So now I want to make sure there's no water in the pipe. We'll break these connections. Grab that bucket now. Okay. Under here. See if there's any water. Good. Alright, we'll keep the bucket there because I might get a little bit of water in a couple pipes. You know, Randy and I did a video the other day and showed these mini cutters. I love these things. No, man, I want to move this washing machine down over here. So why don't you take a screwdriver onto these 2 large screws and get the ones behind. And pull down straight off the hook. The Phillips screw, and that's a very unique valve set for a washing machine. Maybe they're using a lot of more. We don't have the washing machine. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's it.
No. Why?
She doesn't want to make
Somebody can make it look like tell properly. Spend. I'm just trying to make something else.
This is a lever that turns on and off, so you don't have pressure on the hose that you're not using. This is pretty old.
What are you watching? Full House?
Huh? I'm ready to start this washing machine down, but before I do, I want to protect these gaskets right here. So I'm going to move down. Yeah, that's a trick, and I love that. I always took my ankle stops apart whenever I started doing it, because I didn't want to burn the washer inside.
can see he cleaned the copper, so I'm sure he cleaned the fittings too. I like this because look, he's using just a little matte gas torch. These are cheap. They're easy to get. These are normally what most plumbers don't use. Some carry them. Most plumbers carry a big.
It's not like dangerous.
Here's one thing that I do like him is, I mean, he's not using a $2,000 press tool. He's using something that homeowners can buy. Now for a TV show with a big budget, it's great. They can afford those expensive tools. I like that he's not using it. I love that he's really soldering it, not just pressing it. But for a service plumber,
see the problem here? He's in front of the window with the pipes.
The specific situation. Now you could be in here and you may be in a low level and you say, Roger, we can't use a torch because we're not getting enough oxygen, we don't have fans, whatever it is. Know your area, know where you're working, and what you need to do. Sometimes the simple traditional method like this is the best business decision. Now, if you don't know how to solder, but you can run a press gun, there you go. This is a subtle but critical point right here. The techniques they're using here are perfectly fine up in New England where the show is filmed. If you try to do that in California or Texas, it's going to be totally different. We put our pipes in the water, almost everything. Now, you might fail your inspection too with the line and the P-trap like that. Let me know where you're at. Let me know what your inspector's going to say about you creating an S-trap. Plumbing codes vary dramatically across the country. What is expert advice in one state can be completely illegal installation in another. And a true professional has to be a master of their local codes.
There's a secret here. All right, great. Well, Guardian Catch-Trap faucet. This faucet actually has a pull-out hand tray. You can see the hose right here.
Okay, and I would do that with pull-out hand sprays on laundry sinks like this. I think it's a great idea.
See, there's a counterweight to keep that hand tray inside the spout. We've got a hot and cold lab supplies that already attached.
I'll need to know.
Just already mounted.
He's got that all the way in there. I want to put that counterweight way down here. That way it gives you more room to pull it out. You never know when you may need to pull it out to fill a bucket or something. And to be honest, what I do is I take this loop, pull the loop down, and then put it right above it on the side that's going to get pulled up. That gives it all the weight that it needs to pull it down. I just don't like limiting them to only be able to pull out 12 inches. You never know in 3 more inches.
That's what she said. That's what she said. That's what she said.
May change everything.
Counterweight to keep that hand tray inside the spout. We've got a hot and cold lab supplies that already attached. And underneath, we've already mounted a trap. And here's our last piece of PVC pipe. Now over here, we're starting a hot and cold shutoff valve. We're ready to make our final PVC.
Okay, you've got a full turn valve out there, so this here rotates several turns, and right here you've got a quarter turn. You got one chrome, you got one brass. Me guys, I could never install this in a house. That's just me. I want everything to look perfect, and I would just use 2 of the same valves.
Make our final PVC connection. So why don't you bring the sink in? All right. Little tight squeeze back here, making these final connections. All right. And clean our last connection with the pipe. All right. Final glue connection.
Is going that down.
All right, just snug up those washing machine hoses onto the washing machine belt.
Okay, and they.
All right. That washing machine belt will also come to turn on the hot water line. All right, Matt, once you reach up and turn on the cold. All right, good. Now turn on the washing machine.
Check on my output with the zone clear.
So, is the apostolate shows good? Absolutely. It's a fantastic resource. It's being a top level professional isn't just about knowing the textbook technique. It's about knowing how to adapt that technique into the messy, unpredictable, and code-specific reality of the real world. Now, that ability to adapt, to problem solve on the fly, and to know which of the five possible solutions is the right one for this specific job, that's what we call trade wisdom. It's something that usually takes decades to acquire through trial and error. But we've designed the Becoming a Better Tradesman to shorten that learning curve dramatically. We teach real-world scenarios. We teach the diagnostics, the thought process, the advanced techniques of learning that TV doesn't have time to cover. Now, if you're ready to move beyond the basics and become a true master of your craft, click the link in the description to see what's inside the course. Now, if you enjoyed this program, check out my reaction to other DIY tips or this video where we debate facts versus topic. And I'll see you in the next video.
This is Cloudgate, better known as the Bee, and tracks along the lake. To protect those tracks, the company constructed a long breakwater trestle just offshore, meaning between the city and that new embankment was a shallow lagoon. It was still more water than land, but it was clear. Industry was making its mark in parts of people. Then came the Great Fire of 1871. In its aftermath, debris was dumped into the lagoon, filling it in bit by bit. And it didn't take long for what was water to become landfill, broadening the lakefront by hundreds of feet. Many historians would agree that this was the moment that Chicago's growing ambitions took root. Think of it. The city had just lifted its streets, literally, to escape the swamp. They reversed the flow of the Chicago River, and they put water streams as far as 2 miles out into the lake to bring in clean drinking water. So Chicago was really moving forward. Across the very ground that Burnham marked for promenades and fountains. It was here, in the heart of Chicago's forever open land, that the clash between civic vision and industrial might would come to a head. By the 1850s, what had been a quiet marshland east of the river, some of the largest in the world at the time, feeding the rail networks that sprawled in every direction. By the 1880s, the city was the nation's switching yard, with more than 30 rail lines converging. Below ground, another system was taking shape. The Chicago Tunnel Company began digging narrow freight tunnels beneath downtown. This network was 40 feet below street level and carried things bulk freight throughout the entire city. Anyhow, much of the clay removed in the construction of those tunnels were simply hoisted up to Grant Park itself and dumped right into the lake, literally expanding the shoreline with the byproducts industry. The result was a paradox. Grant Park had grown outward, but instead of open lawns, it became a dumping ground and staging area. City. Its gleaming plaster palaces on the south side showcased what civic grandeur could look like and set a standard that Burnham carried into his 1909 plan. Not to mention, the Art Institute of Chicago opened in 1893, even closer to the contested lakefront, and quickly became a cultural anchor on Michigan Avenue. In a city powered by great, still far from settled, though the fountain's dedication did mark a certain triumph. It embodied the ideals of Birmingham's plan of Chicago: symmetry, ornamental, and democratic space for all. At the opening event, crowds packed the area chariots. John Philip Sousa himself conducted a ceremonial march. Local papers marveled at the spectacle of jets shooting higher than a 15-story building, illuminated with shifting colors that, at night, turned the sky into a canvas. Yet the setting told another story. Just north of the fountain, the Illinois Central Randolph Street rail yard still dominated the ground. Thousands of commuters poured through the tracks each day, and even as the trains had been electrified in the 1920s, the yards still looked very dirty. They were a cluttered landscape of steel and cinders. Visitors who came to admire the fountain's display could actually hear the squealing brakes and see plumes of smoke and dust rising from steam trains that were still in operation. The city's front yard remained divided, a showpiece of civic ambition on one end and an industrial backlot on the other. Even so, gradually, throughout the mid-20th century, Grant Park became Chicago's civic stage. Free outdoor concerts began in 1935 at the original wooden Grant Park band shell, drawing crowds with classical music against the skyline. Providing thousands of spaces for downtown drivers while keeping the surface green. This was civic engineering in the spirit of Montgomery Ward's mandate. The lakefront could be used, but never be built upon. Below ground, the century-old Chicago freight tunnels, which had once hauled coal and debris through the downtown area, were finally abandoned in 1959 after decades of decline. And the lakefront itself was also starting to look more reputable. Along the water's edge, temporary piers that had served the old railways were gone, replaced by seawalls and formalized Monroe Harbor with sailboats and leisure craft, rather than love the concerts and fireworks. Yet guidebooks still describe Chicago as a city of smoke and steel. Even Frank Sinatra, in his 1956 Ode to Chicago, that title and town, captured both the city's allure and its grit, singing of the town that Billy Sunday couldn't shut down. To many, the fountain was proof of Chicago's aspiration, but the industrial sprawl just to the north suggested that the lakefront's prominence was only half fulfilled. For decades, civic leaders floated proposals to equal to the southern park. The plan would be bold, expensive, and controversial, but it would ultimately give Chicago a new icon, Millennium Park. By the 1990s, the northern half of Grant Park was little more than a rail yard capped by asphalt. But then, Mayor Richard M. Daley decided to erase it. In 1997, Daley unveiled a plan to deck over the Illinois Central tracks and surface parking lots between Randolph and Monroe. At first, this was pitched as a modest civic upgrade. Gardens, but as the idea attracted private donors, particularly the Pritzker, Brown, and Harris families, the project swelled into something far larger. Daley insisted that Chicago's new waterfront had to compete on a world stage. With that, the city turned to Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill for site planning. But Daley and the donors wanted marquee names for the park's signature features. Hence, they hired Frank Gehry, who was already famous for the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, to design a similar sculptural concert pavilion. His concept was awe-inspiring. The J. Pritzker Pavilion, unfurled like ribbons of stainless steel, over stage framed by trestles of steel pipes, carrying sound evenly across the lawn. Gehry also created the BP Bridge, a sinuous walkway over Columbus Drive that linked the pavilion to the lakefront. Nearby, the Spanish artist John Lafanza designed the Crown Fountain, two glass block towers facing each other across a shallow pool. LED screens, which were cutting-edge technology at the time, projected the faces of ordinary Chicagoans who seemed to spit streams of water onto the lighted children below. It was whimsical, interactive, and unlike anything else in the city. And then came permission from the British Indian sculptor Anish Kapoor. Kapoor proposed a series, weird form so large that it seemed impossible. Even so, engineers in California fabricated 168 stainless steel plates, each several inches thick. These painstakingly polished these seams until it became a perfect reflective surface. At 33 feet high and 66 feet long, the beam weighed over 100 tons. Installing it required custom cranes and scaffolding. And beyond aesthetics, the artist also had to think about daily functionality, more specifically, the upkeep, which is why the underbelly was designed to conceal a maintenance chamber so workers could service the structure without disturbing the plaza. Millennium Park opened on July the 16th, 2004. The budget had ballooned from $150 million to nearly $475 million. But the spectacle was undeniable. Crowds filled the lawns for the first concert under Gary's Pavilion. Families splashed in that fountain, and as soon as the scaffolding came down, Cloudgate became the park's instant icon. Though at first it was not without controversy. Costs ran over, deadlines slipped, and tours of the studio briefly restricted commercial photography of the dream, sparking public debate and controversy, but the people voted with their feet. Within a year, Cloudgate had eclipsed Buckingham.
Welcome to the
the
family.
city's most photographed landmark. Tourists and locals alike were drawn to its distorted skyline reflections, the funhouse effect, the arch beneath the belly. And in that context, it didn't take long before Chicagoans forgot that rail yards and coal piles ever existed in that area. I'd even go as far as saying that, in a sense, the beam gave Chicago something that it never truly had before. A 21st century emblem as recognizable as the White City had been in the 1890s. By the end of the first decade, Millennium Park was attracting 25 million visitors annually, making it one of the most visited urban parks in the country. Daley called it, quote, the most important project in Chicago since the World Columbian Exhibition. And for once, you disagreed with me. With that in mind, and in the context of the area's greater history, we might all agree that the gigantic beam mirror only tells half the story. In other words, if the park above has become Chicago's modern symbol, what remains hidden below? Let's have a look. Directly below the park sits Millennium Station, a stub terminal for the Metro Electric and the South Shore Line. The rebuilt concourse and 5 island platforms, 10 tracks in total, run under Randolph and Michigan, with passages tying into the city's greater underground pedestrian pathway, locally known as the Pepper. Trains still pull in and out all day. The station is a living descendant of the Illinois Central Corridor that we talked about earlier. Anyhow, without ever going above ground, you can reach places from here like Prudential Plaza, Aeon Center, and Illinois Center. If you've ever surfaced in the park from the glass stair tower, then you use it. Now, beyond that, under the entire park is the largest underground parking system in the U.S. 4 garages operate as Millennium Garages. Grant Park North, holding about 1,850 spaces. Grant Park South, with about 1,350 spaces. Millennium Park Garage, 2,126 spaces, as well as the Millennium Lakeside Garage, which holds up to 3,850 vehicles. Together, they total 9,176 spaces over roughly 3.8 million square feet, extending from Randolph to Van Buren. And here's the thing, most people would never even realize it, as the new decks lie directly beneath the Great Lawn and Complex. And since loading docks can't be placed in forever open park, service is moved to multi-level streets. Lower Randolph Drive and Lower Columbus Drive run beneath the surface, feeding not only the garage portals, but also the back-of-house utilities and performances. Micro-logistics centers underground, which are totally unnoticed by the public at large. Wayfindings calls one way, lower Randolph. The truck route to the garages and the Ferris feeder dock, secret entrances that allow catering and even mainstream celebrities to slip into an area of Chicago packed with hundreds of thousands of people completely unseen. Though I should also specify that most of the cultural complex is literally below grade. The Ferris Theater, Millennium Park's indoor hall, was sunken underground to satisfy height limits in Grant Park. It shares a below-grade loading dock, rehearsal rooms, and back of house with Gary's Pavilion next door. And all of this is tied straight into the garages and Lower Randolph. Furthermore, the Pritzker Pavilion conceals its infrastructure similarly. The visible stainless steel proscenium sits atop an engineered green roof. A trellis-mounted distributed sound system is secured to deep footings. Both equipment rooms and circulation areas are integrated around the theater and garage structure. This came with complications, as initially, engineers had to address things like columns cracking in the garage due to unexpected loads, which, as it turns out, is one of the challenges of constructing a park atop the roof. Now, if we head over to the Crown Fountain, we'll actually be above a small waterfall. Each 50-foot tower sits on a concrete box with mechanical rooms and dual pump sets. In total, a dozen pumps recirculate water from the shallow reservoir under the flat granite closet. Operations are controlled from a room tied into the garage beneath the south tower. Further south, Buckingham Fountain has its own two-level underground pumping house at the southeast corner. 3 historic pumps, operating at roughly 250 horsepower, 190 horsepower, and 75 horsepower, drive the daily and hourly displays, lifting as much as 14,000 gallons per minute to send the center jet up to 150 feet into the air. Visitors see the spray. The muscle is out of sight. There's really a lot of utility condensed into this unassuming park. Even a cloud gate perches on infrastructure. The 110-ton shell sits on a reinforced deck above Park Grill and the garage, with the retaining wall along the Metro Trench and added bracing taking on the load. Another quiet example of the park's roof over the rail yard engineering. At this point, you might be wondering how is everything powered? Well, electricity and access are wrapped into the Exelon pavilion. The small black glass boxes flanking the park. Besides housing, elevators and stairs onto the garage, there are building integrated photovoltaics that feed power back into the system. Part symbol, part utility room with a public face. Finally, there is a deeper ghost in the network. Those early 20th century Chicago freight tunnels. A 60-mile narrow gauge system 40 feet below that once hauled coal, ash, and excavated soil into the loop. Their Grant Park disposal lines brought tunnel cars up to the lakefront to tip clay or cinders into fill, helping build the very ground that the park now occupies. Some of those tunnels have been lost in construction projects, others are still just abandoned, though many are serving the city by carrying modern utilities. So perhaps the surprise isn't that there's something under the grass, rather it's that an entire city's worth of circulation, rails, roads, garages, pumps, and galleries still work down there every day. Since 2004, Millennium Park has been the stage where Chicago presents itself to the world. Its lawns became home to music festivals, outdoor films, and the city Christmas tree, which officially moved there in 2015. Festivals like the Taste of Chicago and Blues Fest brought food and music into the heart of the lake, turning a one-time rail yard into a civic tradition. And finally, this area was broadcast and, in a sense, promoted to the world on election night in 2008, when the park lay close to one of the largest gatherings in Chicago history. As more than 200,000 people filled Grant and Millennium Parks to observe Barack Obama's victory speech, a speech that was broadcast everywhere, a moment that cemented this park's image into the minds of the world. The modern president addressing the crowd against a beautiful city skyline was perhaps the final gesture, proving that what once had been a pilot full of train yards was now transformed into a center of American culture. Pop culture reinforced the park's place in the city's identity. Proudgate appeared in films like The Breakup and Source Code, and despite early disputes over photography rights, it quickly became one of the most photographed sites in America. But we need to consider one thing, even modern icons age. Crown Fountain's LED screens were replaced in 2017. The Pritzker steel trellis had needed repair from lakefront weather, and in 2023, the city rebuilt the plaza around Cloudgate with new waterproofing and accessibility upgrades before reopening in 2024. Looking forward, city officials are already planning for the park's next chapter. According to the Chicago Tribune, Millennium Park's 20th anniversary season is celebration of the city intends to keep investing in new programs, rotating public art and infrastructure upgrades to preserve its role as a civic showpiece. Some urban planners have even speculated that its future may lie not in the monuments, but in constant reinvention, balancing stewardship with fresh reasons for Chicagoans to return. So, while Millennium Park feels like Chicago's most modern symbol, the truth is that its landmarks are already aging. I personally doubt that something like the Bean will stand the test of time in the same way that Buckingham Fountain did. The real question here is not whether the city can build something bold, but how it can preserve and eventually reinvent its shining front yard. But until then, I'm Ryan Sokash, signing off. Middle of the 19th century, Chicago was a city still trying to decide where the land ended and where the began. A long wooden trestle stretched across the lake, carrying the Illinois Central right above the waves. This unlikely structure not only reshaped the shoreline, but also train clattered across a narrow wooden bridge, stretching over the horizon. It must have looked a lot like a machine floating over water. Anyhow, the origins of this unlikely site lay in the deal struck in 1851, when the Illinois Central Railroad wanted direct entry into Chicago's park. But it was challenging, as every piece of land leading in from the south was already so valuable that they couldn't justify putting rails on it. So the company made an offer: allow us to build tracks offshore. In return, we'll construct a breakwater that kept the city above the shore. The legislature agreed. By 1852, workers had already driven timber piles into the lake to put the trestle nearly 300 feet out from the shoreline. From Randolph Street down to 12th Street, the Illinois Central gained a waterborne corridor into downtown. And we should probably point out that Chicago's business district back then wasn't just about passengers arriving at depots. Rather, it was the beating heart of trade: grain elevators, warehouses, wholesale market, and Chicago's ambitions rested firmly on this concept. The idea was rather straightforward: connect Midwestern farms and resources to eastern cities and world markets. Goods, they came in the same way. So, in the average Chicagoan's mentality, harbor access meant survival. Running trades directly into downtown Chicago. South Chicago was also commerce, politics, and culture. Across the lakefront trestle, slowly, great black money. According to one historical account published by Oriental Lot, surreal city, coffin brought into the city across the water, used the lake itself to carry the president's plane. Just like that, the trestle, meant for commercial convenience, had now become a stage for national events. Another railroad chronicle from the time adds, quote, the train arrived in Chicago at 11 a.m. Did not go the full distance to the Union Depot. Rather, it stopped on the trestle that carried the tracks out into the lake. Now, if we put this moment of the national spotlight aside, the mess was ruined. You see, the lagoon created by the trestle had also become stagnant, collecting things like sewage, refuse, and in summer it produced an unbearable stench. Though there was a temporary solution. After the Great Fire of 1871 leveled much of the city, the rubble from the fire was dumped into the basin. Brick, stone, and ash filled that shallow water, creating new ground east of Michigan Avenue for the first time in history. Then, by the late 1870s, large portions of the lagoon had vanished entirely, replaced by reclaimed land. Contemporary accounts describe a rather surreal sight: wagon after wagon, charred ruins of homes and businesses, trundling eastward hit the shallow waters. In effect, the fire that destroyed Chicago also built its shoreline. So, out of ashes and broken bricks rose the very ground, the new exhibition halls, armory, park, that become haphazard industrial bridge, fronted by the Illinois Central Growing Yard. By the 1880s, observers counted at least 20 tracks falling across the lake. In other words, what had began as a slender trestle now expanded into a rail empire. Though, as you might remember, 1873. Even so, the Illinois Central continued to build, and expand regardless, and not be further transferred by private hands. It was a landmark move. The Illinois Central retained rights to operate the tracks, but the underlying land belonged to the people. Some even claim that this was more than a local dispute. It was the birth of the public trust doctrine in American law, a principle that continues to reshape how we treat waterways and block plans for museums, government buildings, and even civic monuments. The only exception was the Artemis Mission, completed in 1893. Though ridiculed as obstinate, Ward ensured that the land created behind the trestle would not be swallowed by private development. In fact, without him, Grant Park might never remain an open public space we take for granted today. Solid ground. In the 1920s, the line was repressed with trench and electrified, clearing the way for bridges, boulevards, and the landscaping of Daniel Burnham's plan of Chicago. The trestle itself disappeared entirely, absorbed into the city it once served. Though things were really meant to be this way. Remember, Burnham's 1909 plan envisioned Grant Park not as an accidental landfill, but as the centerpiece of a beautiful city. Formal promenades, streamlined boulevards, and sweeping vistas were laid out in harmony with his mission, opposed to ugly parking lots and frameworks. Burnham trains once ran over open water would now stand. The wooden bridge that carried Lincoln's funeral train blocked ships from the harbor and fueled Supreme Court battles has now vanished into grass and gone. We'll leave it there for today. But I thank you all for watching, and until next time. Tubes sticking out like wires have made the event famous among historians. But behind those images lies a simple story. A story about powerful machines, human decisions, and how small problems grow to disaster. So, how could something like this happen? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. In the first half of the 20th century, steam locomotives were the backbone of transportation. One of the most dramatic accidents in the history of American railroads, the frightening photographs of twisted metal and long boiler tubes sticking out like wires, have made the event famous among historians. But behind those images lies a simple story about powerful machines.
Look at that solicitor at the door before. You know, you heard me knock? Look. Hold on a second. There you go, see? Okay. But keep the screen door locked, you know? At all times, you know? The posters. Save. How do you save this? Look at this. Download. You know?
Mm-hmm.
We call it solicitor door, you know?
So, how could something like this happen? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. In the first half of the 20th century, steam locomotives were the backbone. Periods. It's Some reports mention that it could weigh up to 1,000,000 pounds when fully loaded. Yet, surprisingly, the way it worked sounds simple. Basically, a steam locomotive worked by heating water inside a sealed boiler. As that water turned to steam, the pressure drove pistons and turned wheels. Here's the thing, it all relied on one very important condition. There always had to be enough water inside the boiler. In addition to its use for steam, water also cooled the hot metal surfaces. Two crew members were required to control the balance. There was the engineer who operated the locomotive, and then there was the fireman who managed the fire as well as the water supply. If the water were to drop too low, the metal above the fire could overheat the entire structure dangerously.
Don't trust the solicitor at your door.
What did she put there?
Key.
What did you put there?
Don't trust the solicitor at your door.
What did you leave on the door?
I don't know, something Mama would explain, you know.
What did the guy leave?
Huh?
What did the guy leave? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Crew on board had probably done this kind of work many, many times before, so nothing really seemed unusual. And with the boiler in, the metal, not snakes, the resulting
There it goes.
occurred
That's him.
Okay.
Oh, that's not him. That's
So the explosion happened suddenly and violently. Witnesses later described the massive blast. The force cooled apart the bottom boiler, launching pieces of steel machinery out. The front of the locomotive was shredded, and the long superheated tubes inside the boiler burst outward, creating the strange, spaghetti-like appearance seen by surviving pilots. And it needs to be emphasized here that the energy released from the boiler explosion is extraordinary. A steam boiler stores immense pressure, and when it fails, the release of all that energy happens in a fraction of a second. So, you might imagine, the crew on board had almost no chance for survival. Historical accounts report that the engineer, firemen, and front brakemen were killed by the scalding water as well as the steam. The train itself was destroyed at the front, though parts of it remained on the rails. Nearby, Nearby people reportedly heard the blast from a distance. One man, who knew the timetable of the rail line, headed a mile of track, flagged down the oncoming train, and warned it about the situation. Apparently, the blast was so powerful that it knocked over furniture in nearby homes. The photographs taken after the accident show that boiler ripped open and it looks almost unreal. Twisted metal, torn piping, and debris covering the entire area. In the aftermath, investigators concluded that the low water level inside the boiler is what caused the overheating, which then triggered the catastrophic surge, and the rest is history. But there is one important thing we need to talk about: the railroad. The losses were serious. 3 crew members were killed. Powerful freight locomotive destroyed. And this is probably the most consequential part: confidence in steam technology shaken. Steam locomotives had already begun to decline in the late 1940s. Diesel engines were becoming more common because they required less maintenance and simply they were easier, safer to operate. Meaning, accidents like this reinforce the idea that steam technology, while powerful, carried serious risks. Hence, within a few years, the railway began retiring many of its locomotives in favor of diesel. Today, this event is remembered partly because of its haunting photographs of because in many ways it was the final nail coffin of steam locomotives. Some people have even dubbed this Hindenburg of the Reds. But we'll leave that story for another time. Leave it there for today. I got through some time. We're doing this live, guys, because my editor couldn't finish this episode in time. So I tried to hold it together. Anyways, until next time, this is Brian Sokia signing off. See ya.
Donald Trump continues to hide and destroy evidence and cover up more information regarding the Epstein files, and specifically his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, his appearance in the Epstein files. And what he's hoping is that we all just forget about it because of the massive distraction that is the very serious war in Iran that Donald Trump started. We have some data points, of course. We know that Donald Trump's regime has briefed members of Congress and told them in no uncertain terms when Donald Trump's regime officials were pressed that Iran did not pose any clear and present risk of attacking the United States. Any statements made to the press to that effect were utterly false. In addition, we know that Donald Trump is suffering from severe paranoia right now. In a very frantic way, he keeps calling members of the press to try to justify this war against Iran, which the American people despise, and which the American people are calling, as we are here on the Midas Touch Network, the Jeffrey Epstein war, or Operation Epstein Fury. I mean, he recently called corporate news reporter Jonathan Karl to tell him, I got him. I got him before he got me. They tried twice. I got him first, Jonathan. I got him first. Referring to the Ayatollah, and Donald Trump continues to think about the Ayatollah trying to kill him. And so Donald Trump just put the United States in a war that may be a never-ending war against Iran, when we've already had at least 3 of our service members killed, and that number is expected to rise. And
No, I gotta go to
that
Jewel,
number
so I'll
is
pick it up.
expected to rise. And the paranoia
What?
also
Milk,
because
lemonade around the corner.
and he refused to leave Mar-a-Lago all weekend. While the United States is now at war, he had like his staffers there in the sensitive compartmented information facilities.
Am I getting supper tonight, Ma?
They were like wearing their Apple Watches, which is against skip.
Am I getting supper tonight?
He refused to even go to Washington, D.C. while America was at war. He's scared. He's refused to brief the American people.
If you're gonna make meatloaf, you want me to pick up some mashed potatoes?
With the intersection of the Epstein files with Donald Trump's invasion of Iran, or attack on Iran, where the hell were the Clinton depositions? Right? Bill and Hillary Clinton. This is all related. Bill and Hillary Clinton. They wanted their depositions to be done in a public hearing, but Donald Trump had ordered MAGA not to do it in public. He was terrified. And then remember, during the depositions of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, you have these MAGA Congress members like Lauren Boebert taking videos and photos of them, which were against the rules. that MAGA proposed. And so Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were like, look, if you're going to start taking videos of us and photos and giving it to right-wing influencers, can we please just bring the press in here and let's do a deposition in public in front of the press so these MAGA Republican Congress members can't run out and lie about what went down in the deposition. So what happened? You had James Comer and Nancy Mace and Anna Paulina Luna and Lauren Boebert and the entire MAGA crew. After the depositions of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, what do? They rushed out and then they started saying, Bill Clinton exonerated Donald Trump, total exoneration. And then James Comer posted on his social media, Clinton exonerates Donald Trump. Just trying to understand this. Like, y'all hate Clinton, but now Clinton you use as the character reference for Donald Trump. There's no consistency with these MAGA people, but that's not what Bill Clinton said. He didn't exonerate Donald Trump. Quite the contrary. Bill Clinton said that Donald Trump said that he had a fallout with Epstein to Clinton over a real estate transaction. And we at the Midas Touch Network pointed out what that transaction was a very long time ago, years ago when we've been covering the Epstein files on the Midas Touch Network. Remember what I've been saying? Focus on that real estate transaction. 2004, Donald Trump outbids Epstein in a foreclosure sale of Abe Gossman's mansion in West Palm Beach. Donald Trump buys it for $41 million and sells it to a Russian oligarch 4 years later for $95 million. Epstein then accuses Donald Trump of shenanigans regarding that transaction with the Russian oligarch. Accusations flew. Was it money laundering? Was it other improprieties with this Dmitry Rybolov, Russian oligarch? Then Donald Trump had to fall out with Epstein over a real estate deal. That's what happens with these Epstein class people. So we have Donald Trump and his regime refusing to release the depositions. Days and days and days pass before the depositions can be released. They're supposed to be released immediately. Then Donald Trump immediately rushes into a war. He doesn't release these depositions, which we should say, see, Donald Trump is exonerated. Just think about it. Literally, right before the bomb started going off in Iran, you had the MAGA Republicans hold a press conference and said Donald Trump is exonerated. James Comer held that press conference and said Donald Trump is exonerated. And boom, the bombs go off. In my opinion, and I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, you can have a different opinion than me. This was calculated and coordinated, and it was done that way, at the same time. Now, in the past 24 to 48 hours, we're seeing corporate news and other large news outlets, even like New York Times, they're catching up to some of the reporting we've been doing on the Midas Touch Network. The New York Times reporting how Donald Trump's DOJ during his first administration intentionally refused to do investigations of Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. Remember, that's the Zorro Ranch. That's a ranch that Epstein bought in 1993. He had till the time he died. There was a lot of sex trafficking going on at that ranch. There were rumors that there was an incinerator at that ranch. Bodies may have been buried at that ranch based on what we've been reading in the files. And Donald Trump's DOJ gave a stand-down order to the New Mexico Attorney General in 2019 and 2020. Do not search that. Do not do investigations there. Stay away. We've got it. And then Donald Trump's DOJ did absolutely nothing after getting a stand-down order to the New Mexico Attorney General and to other officials there. And so the New York Times article, just so you can see it again, it's consistent with all of the reporting that we've done here. Epstein's New Mexico ranch gets scrutiny at last, but it may be too late. It may be too late as well because that ranch has since been sold to Don Huffines, a MAGA politician whose family made a lot of money starting in the 1920s, opening up one of the first automobile dealerships, and then Huffines became a real estate guy, became a Texas state senator, where he was a big proponent of normalizing relations between the United States and Russia. Don Huffines took a trip to Moscow in 2018. Donald Trump, on the same day he went to war with Iran, or maybe right before that, Donald Trump posted on his social media that he strongly endorses Don Huffines for the state comptroller position in Texas, that Don is a loyal MAGA guy, and he's always been there. Don Huffines is turning that ranch, Zorro Ranch, Epstein's ranch, into a Christian retreat for kids, and there's apparently already construction underway, and so will you be able to even investigate what went down there, given the time that's passed, given what we know about the Trump cover-up during his first administration, and has there been any demolition or construction work to turn the Zorro Ranch into the San Rafael Ranch, is what they're calling it, in order to make it a kids retreat, a kids Christian retreat, or a Christian retreat in general. Now, as this war with Iran rages on, a lot of people are taking notice that this is the Jeffrey Epstein war. This is about the Epstein class going to war. And so you have, for example, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. He writes, the Epstein class's kids won't die in this war. Poor family kids will. Billionaires won't suffer. Middle class families will pay more for everything. And for what? For a different hardline cleric to run Iran than the one who is about to die soon. Anyway, remember, the Ayatollah was in his mid-80s. He was out the door anyway. And lots of people believe if you just let him die naturally, then automatically, but the movement, the trends in Iran were for a younger generation to modernize and to move away from the Sharia law and from the extremism and from all of that you have in Iran. And now with the murder of the Ayatollah and almost turning him into a martyr there, it's had the reverse effect. People are saying, you never wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable. The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to wearable night sheets. There's high-NASA technology in the silver-fused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Wearable night sheets feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you find at a five-star motel, but without the steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Basically, mention that. He said, well, the United States has demonstrated that they're basically a bunch of Epstein predators. And when you have our country being run by Donald Trump, an Epstein class predator, someone who's actually been found civilly liable for sexual assault, who goes out there and brags about sexually assaulting women, whose home was used as a location for sex trafficking, right? Mar-a-Lago was used to sex traffic Virginia Dupre when she was an underage girl by Epstein, right? When you have all of that, you now have Iran saying to its people, look, these are sexual predators and deviants. Look at Donald Trump. Look what you see in the Epstein files. That's what they're saying in Iran. Here, play this clip. Where do you see this going? Israel at all fronts or Iran?
I think what would happen is that even if the United States is able to kill illegally Iranian leaders, the next generation of Iranians, the Iranians that did not see American atrocities in Iran before 1979, some Iranians that did not understand why their parents and grandparents were anti-American. Those Iranians will take over. Now they understand why American government is an imperialist, vicious government, and a government that attacks other countries and kills little children. They understand they are fighting the Epstein class that either rape little girls or bomb little girls. This is the government that we are witnessing. They're going to fight back against that government, and they're going to ensure that the Islamic Republic of Iran will live many years after America destroys it.
Now, when we look at some of the data as well, we see that over 50%, according to the latest YouGov poll, believe that Donald Trump was involved in Epstein crimes. Just a poll. So to be clear, I'm expressing overall my opinions, which I'm allowed to do under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So I'll just make that blanket statement right there. I think people believe that this was a cover-up, and that Donald Trump is implicated. You have that growing aspect. We know that they are hiding terabytes and terabytes of documents. We know that they're not releasing the depositions of the Clintons on time, and they refuse to release those when they should have released those immediately after. And here are some of the developments as well as the paranoia eats Donald Trump away. You've got Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna says he's now got the votes to compel Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to be deposed. Let's play this clip.
We have the votes to subpoena Lutnick. I don't believe we have the votes right now to subpoena President Trump because the Republicans control the House, and I don't think they would vote with us on that. But when Robert Garcia is chair of the Oversight Committee, we will have those votes. And the Clinton rule means that Donald Trump and his family members should testify. By the way, he should do it voluntarily. I mean, you should look at what President Clinton did. He answered every question. Why can't Donald Trump do the same? There's this question of these 3 FBI interviews. There's someone who made allegations against Donald Trump that she was sexually abusing a minor. I want to be very clear. There's no evidence whether that's true or not, but there were allegations made. One of those witness interviews was released. 3 of them are hidden by the Justice Department. Why are they hidden? When will they be released? These are the types of questions Donald Trump needs to answer.
And one of the things that he mentions as well, Congressmember Khanna, that is that Donald Trump has now established the President Clinton precedent, which means Clinton gets deposed, Donald Trump gets deposed. Hillary gets deposed even though she's nowhere in the files and never even met Epstein. Melania, who's met Epstein, who said very positive and glowing things about him and Elaine that we've read in the emails in the files, Melania gets to be deposed. The Epstein precedent, they're calling. Here, play this clip.
We're talking about one of the big headlines before the strikes against Iran this week, the fallout over the Epstein files. As you well know, former President Bill Clinton testified before the House Oversight Committee behind closed doors, saying, quote, he had no idea of the crime that Epstein was committing. Do you have any outstanding questions for President Bill Clinton about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Congressman?
When the transcript comes out, I think people will see that he answered every question. I actually think they'll see that some of the Democrats asked him tougher questions than even the Republicans. And he sat there, he didn't take the fifth, he answered every question fully, and the American people will be able to decide on what they believe. The point, though, is that President Clinton has set a precedent, a new Clinton rule. That means that Donald Trump should do the same, answer the question. Howard Lutnick should do the same. I'm working with a Republican actually to subpoena Howard Lutnick next week, and I believe he will come before the committee. And every person who went to that island or
What do you want to watch,
corresponded
man?
with Epstein
I
about
don't know.
going to his
Me
nation
too.
should be called under.
Where are you going? Huh? I think we're going to drink and come back. Huh? Okay. I think we're going to drink and come back.
No, I'm going to the store and picking up your drink.
That's what I'm saying. You pick me up a drink, Eddie. Yeah. I said, you pick me up a drink, you know.